At 5 a.m., when the world was still asleep and my coffee maker hadn't even warmed up, someone knocked on my door. Not a polite knock, not a confident one. It was shaky, hesitant, like the person on the other side wasn't sure they deserved to be there. When I opened the door and saw my CEO standing in the dim hallway, eyes red, hair pulled back
Great
like she
progress on
hadn't
Project
slept,
Phoenix, team.
my heart
Let's
dropped.
finalize the next steps and aim
This
for a
was the
strong
woman
launch.
everyone feared in boardrooms, the woman who ran a billion-dollar company with absolute control, and yet, in that moment, she looked completely broken. Before the story begins, take a second to support the channel. Subscribe, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this remind us why kindness still matters. You're watching MS Tales, where real emotions meet unforgettable lessons. I'm just an ordinary guy, mid-30s, middle management, a quiet apartment in a quiet neighborhood. I wasn't supposed to be important to someone like her. At work, she was known as the Ice Queen, brilliant, decisive, intimidating. She never raised her voice, but when she spoke, the room went silent. People didn't gossip about her personal life. CEOs like her didn't have one, or so we assumed. But that morning, standing barefoot in my doorway, she didn't look powerful at all. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't know where else to go." That sentence alone told me something was terribly wrong. I stepped aside without thinking, no questions, no hesitation. Kindness doesn't always arrive with a plan. Sometimes it just shows up as an open door. She walked in slowly, as if every step took effort. I offered her my couch. She sat down, hands trembling, staring at the floor like she was afraid to look up. "I heard about the divorce," I said carefully. The news had broken a week earlier. Short article, no details, just facts. She nodded. "It's worse than people think," she said, "but that's not why I'm here." I brought her a mug of coffee, black, no sugar. I remembered how she liked it from late meetings. When I handed it to her, our fingers brushed, and she flinched. That small reaction told me more than any words could. "I haven't slept in 3 days," she said. "I've been driving around all night. I ended up outside your building and didn't even realize it until I parked." That stunned me. Out of hundreds of employees, she came to me. "Why me?" I asked gently. She finally looked up. Her eyes filled with tears she had clearly been holding back for a long time. "Because," she said, "you're the only person at work who's ever been kind to me without wanting something." I didn't know what to say. She talked for a long time, about the divorce, about a marriage built on ambition instead of love, about years of pretending she was fine while everything inside her slowly collapsed. Then her voice cracked. "I don't know who I am without the title, without the office, without the power, and for the first time in my life, I'm scared." That was her confession. Not about money, not about the company, about loneliness. She told me how after the divorce papers were signed, she went back to her penthouse, sat on the floor in her suit, and realized there was no one to call, no one who knew her as a person, not a position. "I've built an empire," she said, "and I have no one to share it with." I listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't try to fix her problems. I just listened. Sometimes kindness is simply being present when someone finally lets the walls fall. As the sun started to rise, light spilling through the blinds, she looked exhausted but lighter, like she had finally set down a heavy weight. "I don't know why I'm telling you all this," she said. "Yes, you do," I replied. "You needed someone to see you." Tears rolled down her face. She didn't wipe them away this time. "I forgot what that feels like," she said. She stayed until almost 8 a.m. When she stood to leave, she looked embarrassed. "It's sorry if this was inappropriate." "It was human," I answered. She nodded, a small smile forming for the first time that morning. At work, things changed, but not in the way you might expect. She didn't suddenly become soft or unprofessional. She was still sharp, still demanding, but there were differences, subtle ones. She started saying thank you. She started asking people how they were doing and waiting for an answer. She implemented mental health days, flexible schedules. She listened in meetings instead of just commanding. A few weeks later, she called me into her office. My heart raced. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she closed the door and said, "I'm starting therapy. I've joined a support group, and I wanted to thank you." "For what?" I asked. "For not treating me like a CEO at 5 a.m., for treating me like a person." She paused. "You changed something in me that morning, and I want this company to be built on that same kind of kindness." She didn't promote me, she didn't give me a bonus, and honestly, that made it even more meaningful. Because kindness isn't about rewards. Months later, I saw her at a company picnic, laughing, relaxed, talking to employees like equals. She caught my eye across the crowd and gave me a quiet nod. Nothing more was needed. That morning at 5 a.m. taught me something I'll never forget. You never know what someone is carrying behind their strength. The most powerful people can be the loneliest, and a simple act, opening a door, offering coffee, listening without judgment, can change a life. Kindness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like answering a knock when you'd rather stay in bed. And sometimes that knock is destiny asking you to be human. So if someone shows up in your life at an unexpected hour, asking nothing but understanding, don't turn them away. You might be the only safe place they have left. And in choosing kindness, you might change both your lives forever.